It's one of the strangest, most disturbing, and unexplainable events ever recorded in human history. Strasbourg, 1518. A woman steps out of her home. Her name is Frau Trophea. It's a hot July day. Without saying a word, she begins to dance. Alone. In the middle of the street. But this isn't joyful dancing. There's no music. No happiness. It's as if her body is possessed. Her legs move endlessly, as if controlled by some external force. Bystanders watch, curious. At first, they laugh. But Frau Trophea doesn't stop. She dances for hours, then days, without eating, without sleeping, as if she's being forced to move. And soon, the dance becomes contagious. She's not alone for long. Within days, a dozen others begin to mimic her. They too start dancing, in the town square, for hours, for days, with suffering on their faces. Some cry as they move, others scream, some appear to be in a trance. Some whisper prayers while their limbs flail like broken puppets. Some collapse, get up again, and continue dancing with empty eyes and tear-stained faces. Some sing in unknown languages. Others stomp so hard they bleed from their feet and legs. In less than a week, over 30 people are swept up in what chroniclers called the dancing plague. But it wasn't joyful. It was torment. A phenomenon that, within a month, would involve between 400 and 500 people. All forced to dance. Without will, without control, without rest. Men, women, even children. No one was immune. It was as if the entire city had fallen under a dancing curse. No one could sleep. No one could work. Shops closed. Markets emptied. Strasbourg seemed to hold its breath. Eyewitnesses described bodies collapsing from exhaustion, bleeding feet, broken knees, hearts giving out from the strain. Some literally died dancing. Reports speak of dozens of deaths. Some fell to the ground and never got back up. Others collapsed and were carried away. But no one could explain why. No one could stop those affected. Families wept as they watched their loved ones dance to their end, helpless. Some tried tying the dancers down. Others prayed or begged them to stop. Nothing worked. Priests blamed sin. Healers spoke of imbalanced bodily fluids. Everyone tried to explain it. No one could. The city council didn't know what to do. At first, they thought the solution was to let them dance. They even set up a stage in the square to make movement easier. Musicians were hired to play, hoping that the rhythm would calm them. But it didn't. It made it worse. More music, more movement, more contagion. The dance spread like wildfire. The authorities, in their desperate attempts to fix the crisis, only made it worse. The city turned into a grotesque nightmare, with bands playing for an audience of the damned. The sound of music blended with cries of pain and the thuds of collapsing bodies. Mothers begged, fathers cursed, children watched, frozen in fear. In an era where science and medicine were still ruled by superstition, theories multiplied. Some doctors claimed it was overheated blood. Others blamed divine punishment. Preachers cried that it was God's wrath upon the sinful city. Some spoke of demonic possession, others of mass hysteria. Some suspected poisoned grain tainted with hallucinogenic fungus, ergot, a fungus that can cause spasms, hallucinations, and convulsions. But why Strasbourg? Why that moment? And why dancing? But no one had answers. No one could stop the dancing. The phenomenon lasted for weeks. Records say the peak occurred between late July and early August. During that time, the city was in chaos. Shops shut down. Religious services multiplied. The afflicted were isolated, taken outside the city, locked in chapels where exorcisms were attempted. Some recovered. Others died. Some simply stopped dancing, just like that, and returned home. But none of them remembered what happened. Total blackout. Families welcomed them back, but lived in fear that it might all start again at any moment. What happened in Strasbourg in 1518 wasn't an isolated case. Across medieval Europe, similar incidents were recorded, though none as severe. As early as the 7th century, there were accounts of dancing epidemics. In 1374, something similar happened in Aix-la-Chapelle. But Strasbourg remains the most documented and shocking. What's terrifying is the level of detail, the number of witnesses, the length of the event. It's not legend. It's fact. Historical. Real. Undeniable. Modern historians still debate it. What was it really, a neurological disorder, poisoning, an extreme form of collective stress in an era of hunger, war, and obsessive religion, or something deeper and more mysterious? Some scholars label it mass hysteria, a collective psychogenic illness where stress, fanaticism, and social tension erupt into uncontrollable behaviors. But even that explanation doesn't fully satisfy. Why did the contagion strike only certain towns? Why couldn't victims stop, even as they cried or begged for help? And most of all, why dancing? Dancing has always symbolized freedom, celebration, unity. But in Strasbourg in 1518, it became a prison, a torment, a ritual with no end, a silent curse, a collective sentence. Dancers didn't stop, even when they fell. They got up again, with vacant eyes, trembling legs, and they kept moving. Some laughed and cried at the same time. Others hurt themselves against walls or corners, trying desperately to stop. But nothing worked. Their bodies no longer obeyed their minds. The dancing plague remains one of the most fascinating mysteries in European history, an event where reality surpassed imagination, where madness turned into an epidemic, where hundreds of people in the heat of a 16th century summer danced to their deaths. No other outbreak has been so symbolic, so powerful, so impossible to grasp. There is no cure for what we cannot explain. In that context, dancing wasn't joy, it was despair, a scream of the body. Even today, psychologists, neurologists, and historians search for answers. But the truth may never come. Maybe it's buried in church records. Maybe it was deliberately forgotten. Maybe we're afraid to admit that even today, an entire society could spiral into collective madness. After all, the modern world isn't less stressful than the 1500s, just quieter, more isolated, more frantic, and more lonely. Because if the dancing plague is possible, it means humans can truly lose control, not just as individuals, but as a people, as a mass, as a society. And that's terrifying, because it makes us vulnerable. It shows how thin the line is between normalcy and delirium, and it forces us to look in the mirror, to ask ourselves how much more we can take before we break. Maybe the dancing plague is destined to remain what it's always been, a dancing mystery, a dark call from the human subconscious, a choreography of the unexplained, a collective voice screaming through the body when the mind can't bear the weight of time, a silent explosion of pain, a cry with no sound, a protest of the flesh when words are no longer enough, a rebellion born from the primal rhythm of the body, shaking the foundations of society. And maybe that's exactly what fascinates us, because we can't control it, we can't explain it, yet it really happened. It entered our history, and it never left. It still speaks to us from the past. It warns us, challenges us, reminds us that nothing is stable. that collective madness can strike when we least expect it. A senseless crowd that vanished, and then became legend. And maybe that's where it still lives today, in a dark corner of our history, ready to rise again, when society once again teeters on the edge, when collective anxiety has reached its peak. Maybe then we'll dance again, and this time we may never stop. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.